Hey guys, today on Watch with Poppy, we're going to be talking about last night's episode of Scandal. And, yeah, you guys, like, wow, I don't even know where to begin. So, obviously, one of the big things we find out is who paid Becky to kill Fitz. I mean, we learned that pretty early on, like, before the credits stopped rolling. Olivia figures out that it was Verna. And I just want to mention that Verna was one of my suspects last week, so I call it that. You know, kind of. Not really. I didn't really know. I was just guessing. So you get that Verna feels guilty and kind of wants to leave the planet with a clean slate. So when Olivia comes to kind of like confront her about this, she totally just admits it. She puts it out there. She wanted to kill Fitz because he's not the real president, because what they did was wrong. And I guess that would have made her feel better, which is really kind of twisted logic if you think about it. Okay, so let's talk about some other kind of pivotal scenes in this episode. So really our only good Olitz moment was this moment where Olivia was at the White House to see Cyrus to tell him that Hollis wasn't guilty. Cyrus actually tells her that he was going to kill him. Like, he confesses to that, and Olivia is pretty much like, you need to get it together and don't ever do that again. And Fitz walks in. And, of course, as soon as he walks in, they start playing the music. And he's looking at Olivia with that look. And Cyrus is just, like, basically like, I'll be back. You know, like, I'll leave you two here together. And Fitz just grabs Olivia and kisses her and basically tells her, you know, you can't marry Edison. Because Olivia's like, I'm marrying Edison and all this other stuff. And Fitz is just basically like, you need to tell me that you're going to wait for me. And there's lots of kissing and touching and all that stuff. And you know, it's a moment. And Olivia also at that moment when he's pretty much just like, tell me you'll wait for me, she tells him, I'll think about it. And you get that the only reason she would really say yes to Edison is so that she can really kind of put an end to the situation with Fitz to some degree. You know, like, she feels like if she says yes and she goes off to try to live this normal life, then she won't have to deal with the emotions and the pain that come with this kind of weird kind of relationship she has with Fitz. Now, yes, they did figure out who tried to kill Fitz, but you still have the whole, like, who rigged the election thing out there, and David Rosen is still kind of coming after that. So at one point, he comes back to Cyrus's husband, James. So, of course, David tells him, look, things are going to start to move forward, and James is kind of like, look, I really don't want to be involved in this anymore. I have my baby and my husband, and I'm just done, you know. I'm not a reporter anymore, so leave me alone. But David tells him, like, no, I'm going to subpoena you. Without your testimony, you know, my case doesn't move forward. Then what I thought was very interesting, right, was James goes home and he and Cyrus have, like, this conversation. And it starts off, they're in the bedroom and they're fully clothed, right? And he confronts Cyrus and is like, did you rig the election? And Cyrus is kind of like, look, you could be wearing a wire. So basically, before the conversation ends, the two of them are standing in front of each other naked. And I thought it was really interesting how they did the scene because, yes, they were naked physically, but it was kind of like a metaphor as well because they were naked emotionally. At least Cyrus was finally, like, transparent and like real with James for the first time. So they make each other strip all their clothes off to make sure neither one of them is wearing a wire. And James asks him again, did you rig the election? Cyrus says no, and then James just loses it and it's just like, tell me the truth, be real for once if you love me. And so Cyrus confesses, tells him he did, and really kind of tells him why he did it. Now, he knows that James has been subpoenaed, but James won't agree to lie. But then we see, like, how far is Cyrus willing to go to kind of protect himself? Because, once again, he calls his, you know, handy assassin to come out. And I really thought that he was going to have him kill James. I mean, like, he was on the phone with Charlie, the assassin. Charlie's there outside of the courthouse before James goes in, and he keeps saying, like, do you want me to do it? Like, I'm right here. And Cyrus is kind of like, oh, I don't know, like, back and forth. And then in the end, he tells him not to do it. But, I mean, like, Charlie came really, really close. And I thought he was going to do it. I really did. And in the end, when James goes in, he ends up lying. Now, back at Pope and Associates, there was also a couple of really cool scenes. One was when Abby finds out that Olivia had a hand in breaking up her and David Rosen. And she kind of loses it and starts screaming, especially when she finds out that Harrison was involved. And she, like, storms out, like, because she's really upset. And love that little scene in front of the elevator between her and Harrison where he basically told her, look, gladiators don't have feelings. Like, you want to cry right now? That's too bad. You gotta let that go. We don't have feelings. We solve problems here. And then he starts to remind her, like, look, Olivia saved us. Like, she saved me. She saved you. She saved all of us. Now it's our turn to save her. Like, are you in? Basically, we're going over the cliff with her. Are you going? Now, Abby's mad, and as she's leaving, she's actually headed to David Rosen's house because it's her job to go to his house, break into the safe, and steal the little, like, voter booth, like, chip that he has. Because obviously that's really David's only real piece of evidence for the whole voter fraud case. Now, the other cool scene at work was between Quinn and Huck. So she comes to him and she asks him to kill Hollis Doyle. And Huck is like, you know, very Huckish and just kind of like standing up silent with this look on his face. And he tells her, like, okay, like, I'll do it. And she offers him money. And he tells her, look, I'll do it for free. But if I do that, you can't work here anymore. And you go back to being Lindsay Dwyer. And Quinn is like, well, why? Why does that have to happen? And Huck tells her, like, look, we don't do revenge here. We solve problems. We don't do revenge. We don't do feelings. So if you do this, you are not going to be Quinn Perkins anymore. Like, you need to choose. Either you're going to live in your past or you're going to be Quinn Perkins and you're going to kind of put that behind you. And you get that she kind of decides to kind of finally let that go, which, thank God, because I'm so tired of that storyline. Okay, let's talk about Edison. Edison. Yuck. And hopefully this is the last time we're going to talk about Edison. I'm very excited about that. So Edison comes over to the house. Olivia gives him his ring back. And they kind of have this discussion where he really wants to know why. Why are we here in this place again where we are not getting married? And she tells him, like, look, I could have lived a normal life. You know, I could have done it. It's not that I can't do it. It's really that I don't want to do it. And she kind of explains to him that she's decided that she really wants the, like, kind of painful and difficult and extraordinary kind of love. That's what she wants. And you'll get, as she's talking about that she's totally talking about Fitz, because their whole situation is painful and difficult and extraordinary love. Fingers crossed that we're done with Edison, who seems like a lovely man, and I hope he finds a lovely wife somewhere else. Okay, but let's finally talk about the bombshell of all bombshells of this episode. Verna's funeral comes around because, you know, at one point you see Fitz going to see Verna, and then you see him rush out of the room and call the doctors, and Verna's dead. And so they're going to the funeral. When Olivia gets to the funeral, she sees Fitz at the front, and she walks up to him and kind of tells him, like, look, I know you'll do great at the eulogy. And then she tells him, she answers his question from earlier. She tells him, I'm not going to marry Edison. I will wait for you. And Fitz is, like, really cold, right? And just very much just like, oh, yeah, about that. Like, never mind. Like, I was being foolish and, don't worry about it. I mean, just really kind of, like, brushed her off. And she was just like, what is going on? And then you see the funeral, right? But then we flash back to the hospital room. And I just want to say, too, that I knew it. Like, at the beginning of the episode, when you saw Fitz walk out of that room, I was just like, oh my God, like, she's going to tell him. And that's what Verna did. When he went to see Verna, she called him to come. She told him, I was the one who tried to kill you. And she told him why. She told him about the election rigging. And let's talk about that for a moment, right? Because as he's sitting there and he's realizing that she's telling the truth, he realizes, like, so Melly knew about this and Cyrus. And when he realizes that Olivia was in on this, I mean, like, the look on his face was just like, oh, it was just heartbroken, you guys. It just shows you, too, kind of like, it doesn't matter what our motivation is behind things like that. Because obviously for her, that had a lot to do with his dad and the fact that she loved him and she thought that he would make a great president. Like, none of that mattered in that moment because Fitz just felt betrayed by her and didn't understand that, right? After Verna tells him everything, she comes clean. She tells him, look, after you leave, I'm going to see a federal prosecutor because I'm going to die with a clean conscience. And so Fitz gets up to go leave, realizing that the truth's going to come out and he's going to be done. And so Fitz decides to kill her. I mean, like, I was super, super shocked by that, you guys. You know, Verna's, like, on her last leg, and she's, like, breathing in oxygen, so he basically walks over to the bed, holds her arms, and takes the oxygen mask away from her until she suffocates and dies. And then he runs out of the room and pretends like, oh, she's not breathing, but when they come in, you know, they can't bring her back, she's dead. So Fitz kills her. Fitz killed Verna. I mean, like, let's stop and think about that for a moment. That is, like, I don't know, you guys. I don't know how I feel about that. So let's talk about that in the comment section below this week. Like, how do you guys feel about that? Because to me, that like completely changes Fit's character. And let's flash back to, back to the meeting between Cyrus and Olivia at the beginning of the episode, because at that point, Olivia was really concerned about Fitz finding out about the election rigging. She didn't want him to know, and Cyrus made this comment, and he said if he found out, he would be devastated, and it would change him. And he was right. I mean, like, Fitz, like, went totally dark side, basically. There's a part of me that's really disappointed by that, because it's just like, I don't know if they went too far or not. I'm not sure about that. I was shocked, you guys. I mean, I was totally sitting there just like, what is happening right now? What is happening to my show and my favorite character? I don't know what's happening. And then after that, he and Mellie have this like meeting in the Oval Office. And, you kind of get that he kind of joins forces with her, because at least Mellie is honest. Like, if Mellie's going to be underhanded, Fitz knows that about Mellie. And I also think that Fitz now feels this immense amount of guilt about what he did. And part of me does think that now Fitz is going to go through this whole spiel where he does feel like Mellie's what he deserves, because look what he did. And as he starts to realize, maybe I'm not all that different from her, because look what I did to hold on to power. He sees all of the lengths that Mellie will go through to make sure that she kind of keeps her status, but look what he did, to do that as well. So maybe he's not that different from her. So I think that's where a lot of that comes from. Because in the end, in the Oval Office, when he's talking to Mellie, they really kind of like make a pact together. And he tells her, like, I need to know that you're on my side. You're the only one that I can trust right now. And I need to know that you're with me. And, she tells him, I am. I love you. I've never left your side. And I'm here. It's you and me. It's you and me. The two of them kind of say that to each other, and they kiss, which was just like, give me a break. But, whatever. Mellie. Yeah, let's talk about the state of Olitz for a moment, because obviously after this episode, it's kind of like up in the air. But, you kind of get that they had to do that. I mean, I think part of the whole Olivia and Fitz appeal is this kind of the painful and the difficult, like that Olivia was talking about. And their relationship can't be painful and difficult without Mellie and without conflict, so that's what this is. So I don't think that Fitz and Olivia are over by any means, but I think that what they did in last night's episode definitely took them lots of steps back, and it's at the point now where I think their relationship's gonna cool off. So I guess we'll see. I mean, obviously there's gonna be some interaction as they discover that Fitz knows, and as he kind of confronts Olivia about it, but I definitely think it's still going to be a while before we see the two of them holding hands and kissing anymore. So there you go. Welcome to the world of Shonda Rhimes. Okay, you guys, that's it for me this week. Don't forget to comment down in the section below. Tell me what you thought about this episode and the craziness that it was. I mean, like, wow, you guys. I was really shocked. Really, really shocked. Yeah. So I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.